Welcome back. We're actually going to do this legit. Welcome back everybody to a tech podcast with two old people talking about tech on this beautiful Thursday evening.
You just jumped in.
Yeah,
I'm going for
legit it. Time for the first time ever. We weren't really talking, and I said, "Let's go live," and then we're like,
"Nah, just roll with it." We actually
Wi-Fi 6. Yeah. Hey, welcome back. I don't know.
Happy Skynet Day to you, good sir. Happy Skynet Day. Absolutely. Did you do anything fun to celebrate the annihilation of the majority of the human race?
I decided to go to Baskin Robbins and support my local music group by doing some not charity but like fundraising, and then just enjoy a scoop of Jamocha almond fudge.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. We made tacos. It was a Taco Thursday, which doesn't work alliteratively at all.
Thursday. But I guess
Taco Tuesday on a Thursday. That's right. But my uncle came over, and he's going on a long trip, and I was telling him, you should get some of those fancy projector glasses, because I know he really, really likes to binge old TV shows and watch movies and stuff. He's one of the few people in our family. Is my mom's older brother, who rivals my movie and DVD collection, but he's also been ripping all of his DVDs and stuff. Okay. So we're in an arms race on how big our hard drives need to be.
Okay.
And it's hilarious because I think I'm winning right now, but something tells me that he's well, I've got more disposable income. I'm retired. He's gonna just completely school me. So he came over and we went through every single pair of AR projector glasses, the X-Reals, the Rokids, the TCLs, the Ray-Neos, and he seemed to like the Rokids the best, so he's gonna get himself some Rokids. Yep. And then on the way out, and he was like, "Oh, and hey, that's a funny shirt for today." And I went, What do you mean? Or I was thinking he was trying to reference, there was a news story about an AI government contract, and I'm wearing my Skynet shirt, and he's like, "Oh no, that's funny." And he gets in his Jeep and drives off, and you're I guess, I like this shirt, but I don't get it. And then later he texts me the quote from Terminator 2 that in 1997 Skynet annihilated humanity on August 29th. So August 29th is Skynet Day. And I had no idea. I was just wearing my Skynet shirt.
Yeah, no. Man, you got it.
My timing was impeccable.
Our timing is impeccable. Your timing is absolutely impeccable. Skynet's timing, obviously, thank God, was not impeccable, because that would have been we would not have had this podcast brought to you by not Skynet.
You know what? I kind of feel from 1997, not quite 20 years later, we'd probably be back to podcasting.
I hope, people like to talk, and people like to listen talking. I think it works. I like podcasting. I actually like seeing your amazing face every Thursday and being able to chat. In person would have been nicer, but I'll settle with what I can get. I'll say that much.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I'll in this economy.
35 to 40 minute drive is a long time. I understand.
There you go.
I'm totally
in LA traffic. So yeah.
Oh, dude. Tomorrow traffic's going to get really bad, starting with the holiday weekend that we're getting. So it was already starting to show its. All I say is our freeways turn into parking lots essentially in LA. If you've ever visited LA during the holidays, good luck.
It's hilarious.
That's all I have to say.
Now, we stay for these holidays because it's really nice. It's our tradition to not go anywhere for July 4th. Because so many people leave, you're we can get around and we can just go to a movie and have lunch. We can do 3 things in one day.
I know.
Because we're not spending hours in traffic.
You just have to skip that travel day that people like to usually go. Some people will take Friday off to make it a 4-day weekend. So that's some of the traffic that I hit today coming back from work. But tomorrow's going to be the legit parking lot situation, which
it's going to be bad.
It's like the 4th of July, it's like Christmas, it's like Thanksgiving. We avoid that like the plague. Let's say that. We usually typically like you said, we just stay. And then once the traffic is done and people are gone, it's suddenly the town is
lovely.
It's lovely. It's a little bit less.
We need more people who get pissy about taxes to F off to Texas. So just leave. We're not gonna miss you here in California. Just go, and then everyone will be happier. We'll have less traffic on the roads. You'll have an electrical grid that doesn't work, and you'll have tons more toll roads that you have to travel on, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine here in California, in the world's 4th largest economy, all by itself. So we're not gonna miss you. Just head on out.
Wow, we went dark on this one. Okay, good.
You don't need to be an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. No one cares. We're fine if you leave.
Absolutely. I will take my winnings when I'm able to, and I'll say that as much as I enjoy, I visited Texas a few times, but I'll probably say is if enough people travel there, the prices are going to go up back enough, and then they're going to be looking for a new Texas to figure out where to go, because that's what happened with the whole COVID situation. People moved to Arizona and Texas, and
we'll make a new Texas with blackjack and hookers. That's how well.
That sounds like a good name for its state. New Texas, like not New Mexico only, but New Texas.
Right? He's like, we got New Mexico. It'll be like New Texas. Exactly. We need a new Texas.
The new ones, because the old ones, they're not. But no. Look, I mean, it's been an interesting week. It hasn't been as busy as before, although, I'll be lying if I said if I didn't say that I'm stressing out a little bit, because next week I'm going to be going to IFA, so I'm starting to feel the pressure of I got to record a whole bunch of stuff. I got to get things done. I got to get things ready before I leave, because I can't produce anything while I'm traveling. I mean, I can, but nothing fully structured like the way I typically make my content. And
for sure,
I am a little bit behind on stuff. I did get it. I don't know if you've ever you're familiar with Nanoleaf, right? The company, the panels.
Yeah, they make the light panels.
I have them. Yeah, I have them installed here. I used them quite frankly quite a bit. Like about 3-4 months ago, they sent me the Nanoleaf skylight setup, which requires you to install them on the ceiling of your room. And prior to agreeing to the agreement, I didn't realize you needed an actual opening or a light switch, or basically an outlet for a light to be fully functional.
Oh, that's like way complicated.
Yeah, and way more expensive than I thought it was. That I agreed to for, and it was like, so it took me a while to get that happen, to get the electrician to come out, install it, and so on. So it's fully functional now. It's installed. I have like 9 lights installed above my head, but now it's like it gets legit brightness level that I really want.
Nice.
And I was hoping to use it instead of my studio lights, but the positioning is off. I didn't think about it, because it's right above my head, right? So when I'm working on the content in front of the camera, my head, without any hair even, casts a shadow right where it needs to, where the product.
Well, I mean, you've seen my setup, right?
Yeah, no. And you have yours. I feel like it's the because your studio is a little more lengthwise, and you also you move around. Your setup is mostly, I feel like it's
okay. No, but so. Because we have just those gnarly old gross canister lights, right? So it's just a light bulb that goes straight down on your head. And in the office, like, it just looks awful. Like, I can't use the overhead lighting for anything. So all I've done is taken those large sheets of like gift wrap tissue paper. And I've done these giant U-shape
diffusing, creating more of
to diffuse, just so that they glow a little less than just hard spotlight down. And then I have to have LED panels just like smashing me in the face, and I go blind on every podcast. But it's hilarious. Like, and especially like I was taking the photo today just to share on Instagram. And you're like, I wonder if anyone ever looks at like the background of my office and just sees like paper hanging from the ceiling. Like, what's up with his room?
I want to.
Why would he do that?
Off in a previous studio tour, like maybe Studio 1 or 2.0. I want to, because I think the same lighting it has transferred with you a few times. So if I've seen them in different configurations, but for me, again,
if you catch it just like on its own, you walk in and you're like, because I have to hang them low so that they actually like they glow, that they diffuse light. And they create more shape rather than just a hard spot. And every time someone walks in, I see that quizzical look of, but why? And you're like, well, because YouTube sucks.
Yeah, in more ways than one. But so one thing I'll probably say since our last conversation last week, I know we had a lot of conversation over TeamPixel and things kind of going on. in retrospect, I think overall, from what happened from last week to this week, not much kind of changed in the sense of what we're
No,
seeing. Like TeamPixel didn't, there was no public announcement or anything like that. I
no.
did start seeing some content being posted under TeamPixel from some of our friends that traveled with us. So I'm assuming some things are
Yeah.
starting to kind of go public with that. I've been
It
using my
seems
9
like,
Pro. Yeah.
especially the folks that had already started paid sponsorships.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry.
And
That's
you're
what I
like, that's
meant.
great. The people that we trust to do that kind of work, and they know their disclosures, and they already had that agreement in place. It seems like they took a pause, and they're getting that back up to speed. For everybody else who was legitimately Team Pixel, it's been radio silence and the same PR boilerplate. Oh,
Mhm.
we just we made an oopsie. I know that destroys your credibility, but what you gonna do? We're Google,
It
and
hasn't it
they
hasn't been
still
an official
and
point. Yeah.
Google's PR still owes me money, so I'm not inclined to sit here and go like, "Oh, Team, I'm so glad Team Pixel's back." It really sucks because like it's putting this like casting a shadow
Yeah.
over a phone launch,
Mhm.
and it's impossible for me to not take all of this personally because I feel like Google made this personal.
There's there's
So
there's still a lot of
I'm
cleanup to be
kind of in
done.
the
I think
same.
there's still, yeah. The only reason I
It's
mentioned
still
it is
messy.
it
Yeah.
started to show up on my timeline and at least it's because of a couple of creators that we were with and that I followed them. I actually follow their content. It's
Hmm.
typically how it usually shows up. But yeah, I'm actually kind of trying to figure out how to do my coverage on this phone.
Yeah.
It's been
Because I mean,
it's just,
you have the 9 Pro or the 9 Pro XL.
the XL. You and I, yeah. I got
Yeah.
I would say hazel, but then you would never know because I have it in a case. Um,
Sir.
the the overall, I think my approach to this, I'm probably going to try to do a travel vlog with this, like I did last year with the
Cool.
8 Pro XL when I traveled to Hong Kong with the family, because I try to like figure out like what's the best way to cover it that hasn't already been kind of preset by other creators. Like the conversation is so late now that I feel like literally by the time I post my content, whatever it ends up being, it'll be iPhone season, and at that point, nobody's looking
Yeah,
at iPhones. It'll
for
be
sure. It
what's wrong with the
technically
Pixel and
already
why
is.
iPhone is better. Type of
I
thing.
posted on the Patreon, and I'm gonna plug
Yeah.
my Patreon again.
Oh,
But
good.
I explained some of my own personal feelings in a little more sort of snark
Hmm.
than our conversation last week, and I led off with this is the analytics that we're seeing for search on things like Pixel 9
Hmm.
and iPhone 16 is an order of magnitude more popular as a search term. And then there's this teeny little spike where Pixel 9 was being searched for more than
Yeah.
iPhone 16, and then that peak immediately fell off a cliff once pre-orders went up. So it's done.
Yeah.
Thanks to Google's own ratcheting of their own platforms and this popularity metric that they force on content creators, Pixel 9 as a topic is finished. It is no longer monetizing, and anyone who had their device under an embargo, they got to reap all the benefits of having early access to the phone. They're the ones who had the financial incentive to make sure that they were staying on Google's good side so that they could get early access, be under the embargo, and make the most money on their content.
Hmm.
So it also benefits them that Team Pixel, who was just an enthusiast grassroots collection of different content creators and reviewers and influencers, that their credibility was wrecked because it made them look more trustworthy, though they were the ones who were going to make more money on their content. And then it delayed all of the Team Pixel content anyway. I have
Well, yeah,
no idea
I think
what to do
what ended
with
up
this
happening this
phone
time is that
now.
I think Team Pixel content got obliterated. There's no content from Team Pixel. The sponsored
Nah.
content that we're looking at are ads. Those are ads, and
Yeah.
but we understand again that that's the approach. You're trying to advertise the content, the technology, and so on. And again, no harm there. If it is added, if it is an ad, and if it is a sponsored content,
Well, and
the
I feel
disclosures
bad for
are
them.
being made, and
No,
they're being honest
I
about
feel bad for those friends because like I've done sponsored work with Google.
it. Hmm.
You've done
Yeah.
sponsored work with Google. I've hosted for Google. I've even done consulting work for Google. it hurts you so much more when you go in with a sponsored video. YouTube already pulls the plug on your metrics. If you click, oh, this has some kind of paid sponsorship or something, you're already sort of in line to reach a smaller percentage of your audience, because those disclosures tend to turn people off. And then the YouTube algorithm just sort of reinforces that for you before your video even has a chance. So then if you compound that by delaying the publication, it's a double whammy. So our friends who are out there probably doing great fun sponsorship and marketing work and working with Google, and you think, hey, this is going to be a great project. I'm sure they got paid, but it didn't help their channel. And that hurts your channel metrics. And then in the long run, it's even harder to foster those other relationships and those other sponsorships and those other affiliates and ad deals, because your metrics were hurt on this. And that's a snowball effect. If you start to have that downward trend in your metrics, YouTube is happy to bury your channel further. It does not help you or align you with your own audience. It gets in your way. So it's even bad for those folks that are putting stuff out now, because they're not getting the benefit of the best time period that they could have put out their content, because Google played a stupid game with their PR agency and everybody got hurt for it. This is bad for everybody except the folks who are designated as Google's media. So the people that Google handle directly, they're the golden children. They're the ones who get all the perks and all the toys and all of the special treatment, and they make all the money. Sorry, and I just realized, like, I've said the G word so many times, like every screen on my desk had turned on.
Everybody in
so Google knows how I feel. Google search is full of Juan's cranky ranting.
Oh my God. No, I know. And then I think it's in, either way, I think, like I said, that's why when I was like trying to figure out, like, what content can I make on the device? I felt like, the one thing that most people are not covering is, how does this device handle travel? And honestly, that was one of my pet peeves about the 8 Pro. Battery life and functionalities, the AI functions that they have built in now, especially with the new stuff that they announced. I'd like to see, how does this actually function on a device that was registered and supposed to run in the US, but when you're traveling to Europe, when you're traveling to places that maybe the services aren't available, or you're running on a, an eSIM. Dual connection. That was always my biggest issue with the Samsung modems that we had in here, is that they run very hot and they burn through the battery like nothing, and I end up having to walk around with a battery pack, because it legit would not last. And I fully switched over to it. So this is the main device. It has to function as everything I need it to be, just like any other main device that I use when I put my main SIM inside of it. So that's going to be my experience once I'm on that trip, and see how that goes. And I think in general, I'm hoping for a better experience. It's hard for me to test it here, because in the US, the areas where I live, I always have great signal. And even if I try to put 2 SIM cards, like an eSIM and a SIM,
it's doing fine. Exactly.
It won't replicate that whole, I landed in a different area, I'm going to be on an LTE or maybe a 5G connection there, but my SIM card, my main SIM, is going to be connected to like a 128 or 256 kilobits a second, super slow connection. So you're having that data, all of that. So yeah, that's going to be kind of my focus. And I also decided, I know I kind of showed this at the beginning, due to a very heavy recommendation.
You got one too. I can't find the box for mine anymore.
In my Patreon feed today. Or, yes,
I'll hold up. We're portable router nerds.
You have the router. I actually took the router out of the box, and now I don't know where the router is. And I think it's connected. It's in the kitchen.
Between the two of us, we're one functional adult.
Unfortunately, only one of us can actually use the product.
I'm going to be curious. Yeah. I'm going to be curious to hear your thoughts when you take this for a run. I think I still feel like I maybe undersold the setup process in my video. I'm trying to say, like, hey, this is a full-fledged, near business grade router. And I'm trying not to scare people away from that, but it's also like, man, it's chewy to set up.
So it has, from what I've seen because I've used ASUS routers before. This is this is no foreign product to me.
For sure.
I haven't used
Yeah.
this type of a product from ASUS before, but
Mhm.
the web portal interface, even the app, I think I've used. I've never set up the router using the app. I've always used it after I've set it up.
Yeah.
So it's more so just kind of checking if you're having connection issues, you want to restart it. Typical, or check for updates on the router, things like that.
Yeah.
But as I was trying to set it up on my phone, even though I was in desktop mode, it still took me through the app
Yeah.
function.
A,
It's a
a
web interface.
mobile portal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was basically like a step by step, kind of like whatever. So I was like, okay, fine. And I decided to stop that. And tomorrow morning, when I'm like clear minded, I will legit set it up and get it up and running. And I want to test it out, make sure that it runs pretty good here before I take it with me and start kind of connecting it in other places, which I'm
Yeah.
assuming would be a good connection. And I set up the VPN, just the basic stuff.
Man, get your WireGuard keys in there, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is so nice. But it is like setting up a business grade router. And I think it's hilarious because they even include their corporate function. So you can set up like a special landing page for guests that would look like you running your own coffee shop
I like
Wi-Fi
that.
off of this
Maybe
thing.
maybe I will. Maybe I will set up a little guest
Right? Like I'm like traveling with family, it's a Juan's hunky-dory Wi-Fi. And
here.
do
Yeah,
you
and
have the password? It's Juan is rad. I mean, like, it
oh no,
is
I want to set it up
crazy.
to the please be nice to your host. That'll be the password for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Okay, what's your Wi-Fi password? Please be nice to your host. Like,
Please be nice.
Can you please tell me what the Wi-Fi? Yeah, it's please be nice to your host, all caps.
Host. Shouldn't have to explain this.
No,
multiple times.
I've seen it on TikTok too many times that it just drives me crazy. Like restaurants do that, right? Order dumpling.
Right.
Please order the dumplings, and people will order and like, oh yeah, the password is please order the dumplings, all caps. Wasn't that clear? No, I'm
But you
excited
could
to
do
check
that
this.
if you
Yeah,
if you wanted to. You could. So I'll be curious to see your thoughts, especially like after you get over the hurdle. I didn't want to scare people away from it because,
It was
man,
on a
you go
great deal.
through.
It was running on a sale for like $99. I was like,
Yeah,
when your video went up, I think it was still running like around 129. So it's
130.
even low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about it, I think it's special going on till the end. Check out Juan's video, and I think he has a link in that description there, just to pick one up. It's again, if it's something that will fill the need in a currently the way I'm doing it is runs off of my phone, and I have to basically rely on my main phone being the center connection, and it's not a very functional, cohesive connection because you can only do so much. I mean, I can turn on VPN, but it's again limited to what you're able to do. I feel like
Yeah.
this is a much easier solution, much simpler, and all your devices can, once configured correctly, can just automatically recognize that
Mhm.
network. And your phone is, I mean, unless you want to connect it, because I think in your video we saw that you're able to connect it via USB-C and share the network connection.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
So again, I mean, like, it's so handy.
Yeah.
I really feel like, because one of the things I'm going to be talking about in this week's show, I'm just getting it cracked open and I'm just starting.
Yeah.
Like big hard drives, network management, routers, switches. I really don't feel people have appreciated how cool they've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I think too many people are probably like, oh, well, I pay for Comcast and Comcast sent me a Wi-Fi and my Wi-Fi is Comcast Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And you're like, that is so sad. Because like you get these things like if you have the interest or you care, like, hey, you've got a really big house and your Comcast Wi-Fi doesn't reach from your office to your living room very well, that's where a mesh setup would work really well.
Yeah.
Well, you could go ASUS mesh, and then when you want to travel, you just rip one of your mesh nodes out of your mesh and you switch the mode on it, and then your Wi-Fi is just with you anywhere in the world you go. And it's little things like that that I think consumers would really appreciate, but I feel like we've dumbed this stuff down so much that you see the setup process of this ASUS router, and you're like, oh, that's just hacking the mainframe complicated. I couldn't do that. And it's a shame because it's not hard, but we don't educate consumers on how to do this stuff. Like, we don't teach high school students basic network management. Not like I learned, command prompts and like,
Well, I mean,
DOS.
some high schools do offer programming classes, Like I took C++ back in high school, and I
Sure.
mean, obviously they weren't teaching me how to use the computer, but it was at
Yeah, I
least
did too.
computer related,
I was programming, yeah.
you know, being graded and writing
Sure.
code. And so to me, it was more. I felt like it was
But
exciting, but you're
you
right.
know, like how
It's not a required
we
class; it's an elective.
we complain. Well, so I want to go with that because like I took computer science in high school and in college, did not get a degree in computer science because I'm a theater nerd. Just because I was in a class in high school that taught me programming skills in C++, and just because I had a mom who would like let me page through her comp sci textbooks from when she was in college, and I actually understood a little Pascal. Like,
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
just because I had the experience to those things, what I'm talking about though is we complain about students don't have these life skills. Well, I feel like there should be a class in high school where you learn how to pay your taxes and balance a checkbook. Like a general purpose, how to exist in society class.
Prepare them for
And
real life. Yeah, exactly.
when it comes to technology, it's great that we can teach like high concept programming skills, but then we're teaching them to people who don't understand file management and can't do anything more advanced than plugging and unplugging their router to see if they can get the Wi-Fi to work again.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to start with. Like my daughter is already starting to learn, oh, well, I saved this photo from this app and that lives in this one square. But then I can tell another square to find that photo, and then I can put that into another thing. And then she did a video editing project where she went through the folders on the tablet to find a picture that she had drawn to put it in her video. And you're like, that's the kind of stuff like I'm meeting too many people who can't figure out like, well, I have this phone and I got a thing on my phone and now, but where did it go? I closed the app where I got the thing. So now it just must have vanished. You're like, no, it's still on your phone.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't live in an app. It lives in a folder, and then you just have to know where that folder is. And that's what we're not teaching at all.
Yeah, exactly. Where are your it is, you're right. To a certain point, I think a generation that grew up with tablets and devices didn't grow up learning, because we had to learn all of that. We had to learn all of that from the basics from the when it was first. I'm not going to say invented,
Well, I mean,
introduced to mass.
But just think about the metaphor of using a floppy disk.
Oh my God, yeah.
So now we have a physical representation of digital information.
Yeah.
We knew there is this thing and the file is on this thing, and we put this thing in another thing, and then we can use that file.
Yeah.
We've made this so streamlined now that too many consumers don't understand the literal physical differences of like, this is a thing that lives in your phone. This is a thing that lives up on a hard drive on someone else's computer up in the cloud. Like they can't conceptualize those differences.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is just young people. I mean, obviously, like parents and grandparents are having these problems too. My grandmother was paying way too much for iCloud because she just kept saving photos and videos and screenshots. And then her phone wouldn't work, so she'd take it to the Genius Bar and they'd be like, well, you just need more iCloud. And she didn't understand that they were charging her more for that. Mm-hmm. To her, it was kind of like, well, and like I would get another floppy and I would put more files on that. And then I buy this one floppy and then I'm done. To her, it was like I bought one more iCloud. Not, I'm paying for the same iCloud every month. She didn't understand. And we were like, you're burning so much money on this and you shouldn't be. And Apple kind of scammed my grandmother because Apple sucks. And anyway, we've gone on. I'll be curious to see your thoughts on this router, because I think this router is neat.
No. Yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, it seemed like it was the right solution for what I missed, and I didn't. So the weird part about it is, like I said, in my configuration, or at least what I've been doing for some time actually, is just leveraging everything off the hotspot off my device, and everything's pre-configured to go on the hotspot. And the only other protection I'm able to try to do is jump in on a VPN and maybe relocate my connection to a good server if things are not working correctly. Especially with hotel Wi-Fi, I don't like connecting to anything that is not through a VPN. I'll be one of those. But not having to worry about my phone. Like I get to a hotel, all I have to do is plug in this, connect, turn it on, connect to it through the app, connect it to the local internet connection, and then just leave it connected till I'm done in that room. Don't have to come back and recheck back in, turn on my, you know what I mean? Like the whole procedure process of having to go back and do and reconnect. This thing just makes everything run right smoothly.
Yeah.
So like I said, a good time to test. The trip is definitely, it just came in a perfect timing. So and Amazon had it on sale. I couldn't pass it on. Like I said, I know you offered me to borrow yours, but I'm like, nah, dude, I'll try.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, hey, you know, we could meet up, grab some lunch, and I'd just let you use mine on this trip to see if you like it. And he was like, nah, it's gonna be delivered before I'll see you.
Yeah, I know.
And you're like, that's cool. That works too. That's what I mean. I don't want to give mine up, but I would have been happy to let you like wipe it out and set it up, and then I could reset mine, and it would have been fine.
As you're resetting it, you're like, dang, TK made me.
Oh, maybe I didn't want to share.
Yeah, it's okay. No, but definitely we'll keep it up. Well, hopefully, we'll be able to kind of get that lunch going on. But I do want to ask a question. So you got your hands on the Pixel 9 XL. Sure. And we've used the larger format of phones. Have you had, in the time that you've had the device with you, have you had any inclination or any urges to maybe this would have been better had the phone been a little bit smaller? Do you feel like the XL is just, is it like, because we've had this conversation in the past. I think you appreciated the more compact edition of devices, and I'm more always trying to say like I like the larger XL. Now that we have a device that exists in both formats, do you feel like maybe that would have been a better one to try out?
So I can't comment on anything about the Pixel 9 Pro XL to any specificity.
Yeah, no.
I have an article out doing all of my benchmark testing. So if you're curious about how a tensor really performs, because Geekbench scores tell you nothing except how well a phone runs Geekbench, on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, there is an article there. Had I had the choice and had this whole TeamPixel debacle not gone down the way it did, the phone I would have preferred to have tested would have been the smaller Pixel 9 Pro. Just to see how it handled battery life. Because even with Samsung radio improvements, I know we're still not at the same tier of efficiency as Qualcomm. And then also with tensor performance, I would have been curious to see how much worse the throttling might have been on the smaller phone, which has less surface area to get heat out. To your question specifically, it has been kind of a non-issue because it feels like the love child of a Pixel 8 Pro and a Xiaomi. It feels like,
I thought you were going to say an iPhone,
or like
an iPhone.
I was going to try and keep it in the Android family, but we all know the reason why I said like Xiaomi 14 is because they basically got cribbed the iPhone flat side stick.
My most popular tweet ever on X or on Twitter was a picture of the 13 Pro Max back and the 9 Pro XL, asking people today, tell me which one do you think is the iPhone and which one do you think is the Pixel? And that literally got over like 200,000 views. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going viral. I should make a video. And I'm like, no. that was like I mean, people got, I didn't realize it was such a sensitive subject. But surprisingly, most people got it right. They were able to distinguish. I would have never been able to. This is the weird part about it. I don't know iPhones enough to tell that the curvature. I mean, I know you took a good guess at it last week when we were talking.
Yeah, it was a guess. I just got lucky.
I totally would have been like, oh, I don't know. They're both they're both Pixel 9 Pro. I don't know. No, I really don't know. I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and that's as the last edition iPhone that carried the actual SIM card in the US. And from that point on, I've refused to upgrade. There's no reason for me to upgrade to an eSIM only version in the US. So for me, for my work phone, I will stick to that till that device, till my company says that device is no longer supported by our company and we are forcing everybody to move on to something else. I'm sticking to what I have. But it was uncannily, the design was, if you close your eyes and just held it, we're seeing too many Android companies feeling like, we got to look like iPhone for us to make sense. And I don't think you do. That was the whole appeal. The 8 Pro feels so nice.
So I liked that the 8 Pro went to a flatter display. There's still
I get it.
Just that hint of like, it's not a curve, but the way that the sides wrap, the sides are still curved. They're
Yeah.
not flat.
Well, the
I
backside, yeah,
liked,
the backing of the device is smooth and curved. You get that, so it doesn't,
yeah,
feel like it's digging into your hand. So yeah.
right. And I feel like that's still one of the slight differences on Xiaomi is that there's a lift
Mm-hmm.
to the glass on the
Yeah.
back so that it does have a slight taper even though the sides are totally flat. And I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff I hate getting into. I hate digging into the weeds on, well, this has a fraction of an angle curve difference in a 0.02 millimeter bezel, and I can't even unsee that. And you're like, I hate that person so much, and they should never be allowed to talk about technology in any public forum. They're the people who give that, well, it feels really nice in the hand when it's a popular phone, and they're the worst. And if they need to be ignored, but they won't be because they exist to confirm people's bias. So I have the Pixel 8 Pro, and I don't mind going to flatter sides. There's enough
Okay.
grip on the Pixel 8 Pro. I can hold it. I can use it as a camera. It's almost lived exclusively in a case, which hilariously has flatter sides. So the case has corrected for the curvature on the sides of the Pixel 8 Pro.
Okay.
But every time I pick up one of my old Sonys, I feel something that is unique, that has flat sides, has a better grip and texture so you can hold on to it when you want to use it as a camera. There are ways to do this that aren't make it exactly like an iPhone. And that's what I'm frustrated by, is seeing how many players have just gone, oh, we give up. There's no possible way we could make a phone look or feel unique. I guess we'll just make it look and feel exactly like an
I
iPhone.
wonder what they would do though, honestly. Like if they see the numbers and the sales and see maybe if would they be able to notice a difference? Like are they able to have that much metrics or that granularity of a reporting system that it proves to them that it's a
I
preference that
don't
people want that
I
flatter?
don't think so.
I don't.
I
Yeah,
think they're
there's
just
no way to figure that part out.
yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, for me, it's okay. So
And you'll never get an honest answer from a survey. The people who would be interested in taking that survey
yeah,
were already the nerds who want to talk about phones. The general consumers out there just want to make it through their day. But
yeah,
again, if we're looking at all of that, who's eating Apple's lunch right now in China? Huawei.
yeah.
Huawei phones don't feel like iPhones. Why
No,
can't you learn this lesson that in a region you can have this hometown pride and say, hey, we're going to offer up something that does not look, feel, or perform or resemble an iPhone, and we're proud
yeah.
that our product stands out aside from that, and then make that a part of the marketing so that people understand that there's a different. Again, I understand we gave up on North America. The United States is a lost cause, sure, but everywhere else, you could still be competing better than this.
Well, and I know you speaking of Sony, you kind of mentioned they were known for their flat sides. I mean, they may have had
Yeah.
textures on the side, but it for the most part had been a flat experience, and more of a rectangular. Well, the exception with the Xperia One Mark 6, I think they started to go a little bit wider. They used to be more narrow, taller form
Right.
factor.
But look at
Yeah.
the One Mark One, curved sides.
Oh, all curved.
Didn't
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what did they get rid of? Xperia 1 Mark 2?
The side.
That is like the slab from 2001 A Space Odyssey. It
Well,
is
they went
a
back to their.
hard-edged rectangle.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they went to their more to the Xperia. I want to say was it the Xperia, not the Xperia, the Sony the compact the Sony compact side where
Oh
it used
yeah.
to be more smaller and more
Oh yeah.
flatter sides.
Hard-edged
I
rectangle.
remember the Xperia compact when I was in. That was actually the first MWC I went to. Is when the compact was actually at VI. I remember when I went to their booth, they took my passport for on hold so that I can borrow a few devices to take some videos with them. And I was like the first time ever, and they've never happened again. But it was like it was interesting for me at MWC. It was I was by myself. I didn't know anybody there. I was literally just running from one thing to the other, and I was doing it for XDA at the time. It wasn't even for me. And it was it was scary. It was exciting, and it was tech. But I appreciated Sony, and I kind of sad to say that this year's Condo is already going on right now in Santa Barbara, I saw some content coming out from there, but there's no presence in the mobile. We don't. There's not even. I think this time last year, I actually had when we did the podcast, I was at Cando in with Sony because that was the thing. So yeah, nostalgia, man. That's all I can say. Flat sides. Who would have
But
thunk it?
but again, I have no thoughts or opinions
Oh, the
on the
OnePlus
Pixel
X.
9.
Yes, I remember that one. Oh my God, yes.
I, I have no thoughts or opinions on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. I couldn't possibly share my earnest opinions
No,
because
no,
I'm
no. Yeah,
just
yeah.
a
I
lowly
was more.
influencer who's part of a marketing campaign. But I just would like to point out, in every other sphere of influence that I might be a part of through my work in consistently trying to test consumer electronics, they could have done anything else. And
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that we're losing a battle that companies just aren't showing up for. And the companies that are doing incredible work that feels not Samsung-y and not iPhone-y
Hmm.
in North America can't find a toehold beyond very, very small enthusiast numbers. Like, I don't want us to go down how much we love their products and every release they've had for the last year, but we've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about OnePlus.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know where Motorola went. They claimed at the beginning of the year that they were going to work their butts off to be the number 4 in consumer electronics, and then they kind of just gave up this year. Like, we've had these other options and these other solutions that could be doing cool things in the market, and when they're hitting like OnePlus, we
Hmm.
see an alternative. When they're flopping like Motorola, we at least know what not to do. But you can't tell me that the phone is so commoditized and so mature
Yeah.
that you can't find a differentiator away from the iPhone. You can't tell me that that's possible, that you can't find an audience outside of just copying whatever's popular in the United States.
Yeah, my thing would be is, well, look, I don't want to kill I don't want to just be belated the whole concept, but just for me, it's when companies copy it. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is, and the design is usually copied. My question would be is it truly based on the belief that people bought that phone due to that specific shape? Because the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the experience on the actual device has nothing to do with what Apple is trying to do. So to me,
Right.
it's like the one thing that you're mirroring it is more of the, just in case somebody goes into a carrier store and they're thinking, because that's what they think an iPhone looks like, and then they see a Pixel and they're going to be like, oh yeah, this is the same thing, right?
Oh,
No, I
that
don't
that
think
must
anybody.
be that must be the iPhone of Android. I think that's what Google is hoping
Well, I
that
mean,
consumers are going to do. That they're
well,
literally going
we
to
all
put the
know that
words
that's
in their no.
it's Sam
Not
Apple,
like
dude.
as some
It's
kind of
Sam Apple, not Pixel
metaphorical
Apple.
idea.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I think Google is literally thinking someone will go, that is the iPhone of Android. And that means it needs to be as close to looking like an iPhone as possible. That's the only thing I
Yeah.
can kind of suss out. And it sucks
That was the only
because
logical thing. I felt like somebody that wouldn't know the difference, and they felt like they looked at the device and were like, this kind of looks like an iPhone. I think maybe this is, yeah. Again, it depends on the
I guess,
salespeople and whatever. But
yeah.
anyways, long story short, obviously, the Pixel series are out in another week or so. We're going to hear what iPhone's going to be releasing with the iPhone, whatever that new series is going to be. Surprisingly happening literally right after IFA, which is weird. Like the Monday
Yeah.
after IFA is the day they're going to announce everything, and now everybody's trying to rush and trying to get their things out ahead of that, so that you don't,
Well,
because
I have nothing to contribute publicly, so
I
there will be
no,
no
I
public
am not part
coverage
of. Yeah,
on Pixel
I am not
9
team
Pro XL.
iPhone or whatever, and no, I'll barely be coming back, probably jet lag and exhausted. But no, so so that's some of the stuff kind of going on there, and I saw one of the things I wanted to kind of shift conversations. Obviously, there's a lot of cool things going on. I finally got a chance to put that video out on the Mix Flip,
Yeah.
because we talked about Xiaomi and approach and so on, and we'll do a
Mm-hmm.
little gear shifting there. And surprisingly, like when I put this device head to head with some of the other hardware that we have on the market, like even the Flip 6,
Mm-hmm.
or even the Razer Plus 2024. It's surprising what Xiaomi was able to do for a first generation. And there's heavy talk, by the way, that this is coming global. The one I have is not global.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised and very pleasantly surprised with the way Leica's represented here, the cameras, the experiences that we get in here. And in some of their new AI functions that they've incorporated in there, they also have like an AI feature for erasing, editing content, so on. So like everybody's bringing it in. I feel like every company now has some type of AI. So I finally was able to put that video out. I think it was on Tuesday that I put that video out just to kind of close the conversation on it. I've been sitting on it for some time, and I kind of have a whole bunch of delays. So it's a little surprising in the powerhouse of a device. It's still some shortcomings. It's not a perfect device. I think for what it is right now, and where it's available, it's a good option. And if you happen to have T-Mobile in the LA area, it'll connect and it'll give you a really good internet connection. And sort of having Google Play services out of the box, you can just install that and it'll work. I have a fly in the office. I don't know if you guys have been seeing it flying across the video, but like it's been.
No, we haven't seen, but like I've been seeing you like look up and look around.
Yeah,
like, is there something up with his lighting?
I have both my studio lights.
His electrician came over. Is he like about to fry himself? Is there like sparks or something happening?
No sparks at all. But no, so the way the studio is set up right now, there's only two sources of light. And the fly is apparently very much attracted to that light. And so it's basically bouncing between this light and that light the whole time. So all I see is like, zoom, zoom, and I'm like, hi,
so frustrating. Like, so we had a fly in our bedroom 2 nights ago. Okay. And I'm in that perfect, like, comfortable, I'm about to drift off, and I hear zlapak, zlapak, as it's just kind of bumping around the bedroom. Yep. And I had to drag myself out of bed, turn on the hallway light, turn on my office light, wait for it to fly out, close up my office, trudge back to bed. It was like, I was so mad. I was like almost asleep. It's the worst.
I know. And I realize, obviously, all I have to do is just wait 24 hours and the problem should go by itself. But the problem is it happens with the heat. We're warming up again. So as typically they'll find a cooler weather, they want to go to it. And it ends up being just indoors, and you just have to figure out. And my cats didn't usually. The girl that we have here, she usually tries to run after them. She likes to chase them. She doesn't eat them. She'll chase it. She'll kill it, but she leaves it. Like,
oh, that's good.
Mission accomplished.
Because flies are filthy.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's good. My biggest problem is
so
like where. But yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, because like I don't want you to spoil your video. I want everybody to go and watch.
No, please, yeah.
Your Mix Flip review, but I put out that really cranky editorial on folding phones.
Okay.
And I maybe have sent my Pixel Fold off to go live with a nice family out on a farm somewhere where it can run and play happily all day, every day.
This isn't a metaphor, right?
No, surely not. It is literal, exactly, literally what happened.
Legit, real.
Yeah. No, I got rid of my Pixel Fold. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Just kind of like batting, not necessarily specifically the Xiaomi. We've always kind of posited that the flip style phones would prove more consumer popular. But have you felt that there's been anything, and this is, like I said, not unique to Xiaomi.
No,
have you felt like there's been anything that's really moved the needle, like that gets more consumers interested in the bendy, foldy tech of this stuff? I still find like a lot of people think it looks cool, and they really appreciate it when someone else has one. They love to see it and play with it, and oh my gosh, that's really. But I would never buy one of those. Is almost always kind of the coda to the majority of interactions that I have. You just got to play with the latest and greatest from Xiaomi. You've spent a little bit more time with the Motorola's.
Mm-hmm. And very short amount of time with the Flip 6, but yeah.
Yeah. So what's moving the needle there? Or have we already kind of
I think for
like
the most
peaked
part,
on what a bendy phone can do?
Well, okay, I'll give this the expression that I've always had, the issues that I've had with when the first few generations. I made even a video, I think, on one of them where I said why I returned my Z Flip 3, I think, at the time. We've always had a problem where the external display on most of these flip phones, not the foldables, but the flip phones, have always been very limited in what you could do. It'll be basically one or two things that you could do, and it just flopped at that point. Last year, we saw Moto coming in with the Razr, and then they were like, nope, we're going to give you the biggest display possible. We're going to give you 144 hertz, all the good things, bells and whistles, great. Samsung decided to just stick to their Z Flip 5 methodology and stuck to the same thing on the Z Flip 6. They fixed the flatter side, but that, again, doesn't change the experience. I think for the most part, flip phones are very much designed, and I'll say this, it works for both. It's a unisex type of a device, but I find that more so the ladies or female, just basically more from a form factor, because it's so compact, it fits better in that lifestyle. And it's, again, coming from my point of view, but I know like our friend Isa Rodriguez, she likes a flip phone. She's used it for many years, and I know she likes her flip phone. I also know some of our other, guy friends as well in the tech industry that do use the flip phone. But from 2023 to 2024, with the exception of let's say the hardware, like the processing power, we haven't really seen much of a change. We've seen more players in the game. We have Techno coming in with more budget devices. I wish TCL was in that conversation with what we originally
They
saw.
had so many good concepts, and then nothing.
They had such a lead start on so many of them. But either way,
we got to play with TCL's concept fold
in Vegas.
Flippable.
Yeah.
Do we call them flippables, or
I call them flip phones. It's a
flip phones? Okay,
right? It's a 60.
But we had our hands on it.
Yeah.
It existed. And then they at the last minute they went like, nah, I guess we're not going to sell it.
There's no, we're it's too early, or maybe, I think if I remember correctly, it was something to do with the repairability cost and sustainability. I think that's pretty much because you're more prone. I'll be the,
for sure.
Foldable, anything that opens up, anything with the hinge, is more prone to wear and tear than a slab or a glowing rectangle, as it used to be called by, on the forum there. But I don't really feel like there's much of it that has changed. I'll say that every company has done a little bit to try to distinguish or to give you that unique experience. So I'll say Xiaomi put in Leica. Great decision. Absolutely love the decision to go with Leica. The camera experience very much closely resembles to what you get with the Xiaomi 14, the 14 Pro, or even the 14 Ultra. Not the same, different sensors, but still very much an elevated experience. We have, higher resolution displays at 1.5K running at 120 hertz, technically better than both the Moto and the Z Flip, or even the other options that we have on the market. But it hasn't really done. I haven't seen anything on the flip side, no pun intended, that made me feel like, oh wow, this is very different. We're in that incremental upgrade at this point. We've gone away from, you know what I mean? Like the Z Flip went from the tiny little no display, 2 cameras on the back. Then we went to a small little display, and then we went to a slightly bigger display, and then now we have a full somewhat of a full display, like a 3.6 inch. But the functionalities on the external display, with the exception of Moto, has been very limited. Even Xiaomi's approach to this with their split screen, it's limited to the point where a lot of times if you want to try to do things, even within, let's say, if you open up Chrome on the outside display, some functions will tell you to open up the internal display.
Yeah,
Moto
that makes sense.
Just said, no, F this.
Yeah.
We're going to run it like a regular phone. You want to do whatever you want. You do everything you want there.
Because it kind of reminded me, of the LG.
Yeah.
That little mini screen on the LG Wing. You could do anything you want. It's just a weird, awkward square screen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And Moto went and did the same thing. And I don't really feel like they got enough credit for just opening the whole thing up.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
One thing I don't think we give Moto enough credit is, Moto's balls to the wall. Like, you just do what you want to do, man. You want to run this thing hot, run it hot. But what I was trying to kind of get to the point is, I think the reality is, full size displays on flip phones are a thing now, and I think this is what's going to continue making them more popular. The more you can do without having to open up your phone not only extends the battery life. Oh, surprisingly, the Mix Flip has a bigger battery than the Z Fold 6. The Fold, not the Flip. The Mix Flip has a.
I remember seeing just one of the press photos that. Yeah. They are using a split battery, so that there's a large battery in the base of the phone, and then a secondary strip of battery in under the cameras.
Under the cameras, yeah.
But that's insane, because you're right. That is putting it near the territory of most book mini tablet foldables.
Yeah, and it has faster charging than the Z Fold at 67 watts. So like there,
Yeah.
and I wanted to highlight that in the video because I feel like a lot of the coverage that we've seen on this have been focusing a lot on like don't get me wrong, I think flip phones are great. I don't think flip phones are gaming phones. They should not be sold as gaming phones. And in
No.
some of the content and coverage that I've seen from some of our friends, I think and they're rightfully obviously legit comments to be made that the device can get warmer if you're trying to push it and play, let's say, Genshin
Sure.
Impact at highest resolution. But I just don't think people buy flip phones to play games. They're buying them. This is more of a lifestyle type of a purchase if you want, like, you want a phone that can take great video, great pictures. It has built-in tripod functionality because it flips into that
Hmm.
camcorder experience. But it's also great because if you want to have a conversation, or if you want to see yourself when you're recording, or you want to, better composition,
Yeah.
it gives you that benefit of what the foldables do.
Kind of like the Mi 11 Ultra that
Yeah.
they never got back to. They were like, hey, let's do that on our flip phone
Absolutely,
instead.
and I love that. And I still have my Mi 11 Ultra. I love that approach there, and I missed that. That was again part of the experimentation. So as long as I think we stay in that direction and there are more competitors in the game, I think we're going to benefit as consumers. I think Techno's approach to this right now is still kind of a first generation. Even though this is a first generation for Xiaomi, this is based on the fourth generation Mix Fold that they've
Yeah.
released over time. So it's not like really first generation, but I feel like it kind of like what they've done here is they've gone the Xiaomi way of just giving you power. If you want to play games and you really want to kind of push it to the limit, like when I played Call of Duty and I was recording content at the same time, so I'm using screen recording and playing the game at the highest resolution, it did get a little bit hot under the display. Yeah, the CPU's sitting there, the battery's sitting there. You have two displays running on this thing. Obviously, you're going to have somewhere for the heat to dissipate, and it comes out through the display. So I kind of talked about that a little bit in the video. But I just don't think that if I'm going to play games, that wouldn't be the form factor I go with. I wouldn't go for the bendy phone. You know what I mean?
No,
So
and I'm terrified of using bendy phones when I've got on-screen controls. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, especially when you have to tap and you keep consistently.
So do you feel there's anything that would push the market further? Because like all the things that you're talking about are the things like we can appreciate about like the current state of flips and folds now. But again, I like in my editorial, and I threw it out there to my audience, and really I didn't have anyone that had an answer beyond, well, they need to be cheaper. That was like the core answer was, oh, well, they're just too expensive.
We have cheaper one. To be honest, Moto offered us a very good solution this year for the standard razor.
Sure.
But I don't think people are.
But what would be like a feature or technology or a use case or something? Think about like if you were doing the marketing or if you were doing the engineering or if you were trying to say,
from an
how do we get more people interested in this concept? What can a hinge solve? And I'm at a loss. I'm not saying there isn't one.
Oh, no,
I'm just saying I can't think of it, and I'm very cynical, and I'm cranky,
I
and I'm
truly
old.
believe it's the software. So okay. So based on the fact that we are not seeing any change in the approach to this mechanism, all of our clamshell devices look for the most part the same. It's a slab of 6x9, 6.8 or 6.7, 6.9 inch display on the inside. And now, obviously, we're going to 4.01 with the Mix Flip, or 4.0 with the Razor. And I think for the most part, what the true thing that would push us to the next level could be the price. I think the price points need to be a little bit more realistic. Now that we've gone through the 6th generation Flip from Samsung, but then the price went up on the phone, which doesn't make sense to me. It's almost like, you produce something long enough, you should start seeing the benefit of, production style.
I really think Samsung was hoping it would become a fashion halo product, and they're keeping the price as aggressive as they can. But the whole rest of Samsung has been in this cost-cutting effort.
Absolutely.
So it's how do we keep tech in place? How do we spend less money on the tech, but then still keep the prices high? Because then I think you're right. I think the manufacturing on Z Fold has fallen.
Yeah.
But Samsung keeping the price high is improving their profit margin.
They need to recoup some of the losses that they've had with the previous generation.
For sure.
I think this is where you bring them in with a low price, and then over time the price kind of creeps back up to reality, kind of a thing. And I understand. Don't get me wrong. Like when I forgot who I was talking about. I saw something on. It doesn't matter where it was, but it was essentially a gentleman holding an iPhone and saying, "Do you know how much it would cost to make this device that sells for like $1,000 or $800?" And the guy said something around like $20, $20 to $30 worth of actual material that needs to be put together in here. That basically the rest of it, I realized he was very much dramatically trying to,
Right.
There's a lot of conversation. I realize it's more. I think it's closer to around $200 worth of hardware, because when you can factor SoC, batteries, all of that good stuff. But the
Sure.
reality is the profit margin on those things are tremendous.
Hmm.
And I understand that the profit margin isn't just obviously straight profit. It has to cover the R&D, it has to cover investment,
Hmm.
advertising, all of that stuff, overhead. It pays for a lot of things. But I think again, at some point, where Moto's benefit is that it's providing us that software solution that is just saying, do whatever you want. You can launch literally any app you want on the cover screen, just add it in there, launch it. It's a weird format, but it's going to work for you. Xiaomi decided to be a little bit more conservative with that. It gave us access to install, like I can run Google apps on the cover screen. I can run TikTok, I can
Hmm.
run Instagram, Maps, Chrome, YouTube Music, all of the things, or even YouTube actually. And it has a nice
Yeah.
little adjustment when you're playing video that it makes you turn the phone sideways, and it makes it into a 16:9 cutout of the top part of the phone, which
Nice.
I thought was ingenious. Like makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. Don't
That's
don't make
clever.
me shrink the video to be like full face TK. Right? Just show me the
Right.
video. But it was more about, I think this is where I feel like software is going to be the solution here. It's like innovatively bringing in an intuitive UI that runs on the cover screen, because where Moto succeeds in letting us run everything, I don't think it was fully optimized. Like you still had to sometimes reformat. You have to kind of put things again. It didn't feel like it was more of so like we just opened the floodgates, have fun with it. And
Hmm.
where Xiaomi went in, where they were like, okay, we're going to try to make it functional. So we will only support apps that we know we can make them look good. And we're not going to let you just put anything on there that doesn't make sense. Samsung's very conservative, and they were like, no, we're only going to be supporting these little few apps. And if you want to get a little bit more, you have to install Good Lock, which we're not going to tell you about because you're supposed to know about it. Again,
If
everybody likes
you
to
know,
do,
you know.
if you,
Yeah.
exactly, J-Lo, you know. But the concept for me is it's going to be software. And I think
Okay.
that's where that life, because the reality is it's, I mean, the difference between this phone and this phone, obviously this opens up, this is a foldable, but at the end of the day, it's software. It's how it transitions from the external display to the internal display, what runs or what doesn't run. And
Yeah.
the more we make the flip phone run like a foldable, meaning the external display has become fully functional, the more people are going to enjoy it. And that, hopefully starting to actually see price drops. There's no reason for a phone the sixth generation of a phone that for the most part looks exactly the same with the exception of the flat size, and the fifth
Yeah.
generation and a newer SoC shouldn't be able to benefit, getting even Samsung DeX, like even Moto has ready for, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Not
Xiaomi
great.
doesn't have anything yet, but I mean they do have a Xiaomi desktop experience on their tablets. It's different. But what I meant to say is like more of like that desktop solution, and hopefully Android 15 will bring something for us. But yeah, that for me that would be one of the ones when I start saying this is truly a powerhouse, because there's still some caveats. Like for me it's
Yeah.
just like it has to be productivity centric, and the Flip is not. It's very much, I feel like, lifestyle. It's been positioned because the Fold always ends up being the powerhouse, the foldable version of their phones.
Sure.
Those end up being the powers. They get all the bells and whistles, and but surprisingly, not bigger batteries. It's just, I can't understand why this has
I
a
don't
smaller
get
battery.
it.
Anyways,
It's again, it's another hour-long diatribe that we'll probably avoid this week. Of come on, Samsung, what are you doing?
oh, dude,
Um,
did you see that tweet? Somebody put out a tweet saying, I don't even know if it's real or not, but like somebody has apparently an Honor V3, that their new foldable that they're launching, I guess, or I think
mhm.
it's out in China, but anyways,
Oh
and
yeah, the tiny little
the tiny
apology to
little thing.
Samsung.
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah. And I was like, oh
hilarious.
my god, if that is, I don't even know if it's real or not, because I saw it on CNET and I was like, wait a minute, that
It's
is a
too memey for me to just go like, okay, that's legit. But also, if other tech companies aren't smelling blood in the water,
oh
because
yeah,
Samsung Mobile is not getting it done. They are not
they're
living up to
coasting,
their
and that's what's
reputation
bugging
as
me right
being a
now.
market leader.
Yeah,
They're
but
not leading, they're
no,
coasting. Exactly.
no, no, no. But hey, don't get me wrong. Apple is doing the exact same thing. Samsung's doing the same
Yeah.
thing. We're
Now
seeing a lot
Google
of
is starting
traffic.
to just kind of like, oh, all right. I guess phones are done.
I want to chuck it off to say this is Google's approach of saying, look, this is our last year with running Samsung hardware. We're going to just basically take it chill. We're not gonna shake things too much. We're gonna copy Apple, that's for sure. But otherwise, we're gonna keep things very chill.
Right.
I'm not. I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but the reality, if you've ever held an iPhone and you're holding a Pixel 9 Pro XL, it feels the same. I understand that it's not the same button structure, and obviously we don't have the dynamic whatever island that we have at the top, but the phone feels in the hand the same. And even like I ended up having to put it in a case just to give it more of a rounded edged kind of feel so that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is like anyways, long story is flip phones. I think flip phones will make we're going to see a lot more competitors in the game. And now that we have Techno and Moto in the full display outside experience,
yeah,
we're going to see more, especially in Moto, because we have it in the US, so people can actually pick up a Moto Z, a Moto Razr 2024, and totally get a much better experience than we got last year. I feel like that's the one that got the best upgrade this year. The the Razr Plus is definitely better than the standard one, but dude, the budget friendly one has a full display on the outside that's bigger than the $1,200 Z Flip 6.
Well, and I just at some point I still feel like Moto had it right at the beginning. Their first Razr had the Snapdragon 765, right? It was still really expensive, but
it was still a mid-range. It was still technically a mid-range processor, exactly. Yeah.
So I really feel like that might be. This is funny again, like because I've said this about mid-rangers in the past. I'm kind of just repeating myself now because I'm exhausted. It's been a week, but I kind of feel like for the flip phones, people will appreciate. Even if they're expensive, they're premium, they look really fancy, they do this bendy thing. I think the nostalgia is more fun if the phone also lasts for like 2 days on a charge, 3 days on a charge. My old flip phone used to last for like 4 or 5 days before I'd have to plug it in. It was like, because all you were doing was taking a call a day because you were worried about your nighttime minutes. Like, I feel that actually moves the needle more. It might help further keep prices in check because you're not having to go to, like, again, it is really cool that the Xiaomi has an 8 Gen 3. There's so little you can do on this thing that is really going to tax that 8 Gen 3.
And if you try
before the 8 Gen 3 throttles,
I was going to say, that's the thing about.
So you put a twin turboed V8 in a Honda Civic. You didn't give it a bigger radiator, and you didn't improve the suspension, and you didn't upgrade the brakes. So it can do a few things.
You gave it, it's the same. No.
You still have a tiny gas. You had to find a novel solution to radically increase the battery capacity on a flip phone to offset the more demanding power. But you're still not getting the full perk of what a slate phone or a tablet can do with that 8 Gen 3.
Yeah.
So instead, you should have just gone down. It wouldn't have been a compromise to even go down to an 8 Gen 2.
Well, so
if you wanted to have a premium processor.
I'm with you. I think so. Moto decided to go with the 8S Gen 3. They decided that we're not going to go with the full powerhouse. We're going to go with a slightly more power efficient, better battery life experience. And I don't disagree. I think that, all three are technically 2024 edition.
I still think like 7 Gen makes way more sense. But again, if you wanted to step down, 8 Gen 2 is still a more power efficient SoC. That's
some may argue that the 8S Gen 3 is really more of an 8 Gen 2 Plus kind of a thing. But the reality is, for me, when you're not giving it it's like kind of like going back to what we were talking about, the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL. You're right. It's the same. How is it going to function on the thermal side when it's a smaller chassis? Same CPU, same RAM, ideally same storage, same configuration, and
sometimes you close it, which means you have extra layers of material that sandwich heat inside the device, because you've got batteries on the outside. And then a layer in between that thermally is going, because we have these kinds of issues with our book and mini tablet foldables too. You think you have more surface area, but then you close it and you trap all of that thermal.
One of the reasons why almost all foldables will default to 4K 30 frames per second video recording maximum resolution when you have the phone closed, and will not allow us to go 4K 60 because of how much 4K 60 can demand out of an ISP or out of the internals. But no, I'm with you. I feel like from a design standpoint, if there was any recommendation to any company that's putting together, let's say they do want to put the latest and greatest from Qualcomm, MediaTek, insert manufacturer. Try to move your PCB to the bottom part of the phone, or away from where there is two displays next to it, is what I'm trying to say. Because if you're running this device, like one of the appeals of a foldable is that you can run while I'm recording.
That makes
let's say I'm
sense.
recording with you, and you're the one being on the other side. Just like I'm turning on the display for you to watch. Now I'm running two displays. I'm outside, so it means both of them are very hot. The ISP is engaged, and the processor's running in full throttle, depending on what I'm recording. That is a recipe of heat, and there's no way to go around it. And what Xiaomi did, again, we put an extra battery. But if you move the SoC, move those components to the bottom part, yes, there's going to be battery warming up because you're drawing battery. But again, this is where you separate the heat generators from one specific area. Because when I was testing it, when I was recording and playing Call of Duty at 120 frames per second, all of the heat was in one left side where the display is, and I could I can feel it. And the right side, where the other side of the battery was, it was cool. So to me, all I'm saying is there has to be design changes, I think, in the way we do it. Most of our devices always house the PCB at the top part of the phone, because typically the battery sits at the bottom part of the phone, closer to the USB-C port. So I feel like there has to be some architecture change here on the engineering side when they're putting them for the thermals, just for your lease, and then hopefully maybe give us a couple more profiles as opposed to just the standard.
Now that you say that, watch someone else come out with a phone. It's like, and we put it right by the hinge. That way it's always hot, and you close it, and it really sandwiches it in there. The deepest part of the phone. That's how you bank a phone. We solved it.
We built our SoC into the hinge because we felt like that would give it the best heat dissipation without having your hand there. Except when your phone is open and the hinge is covered, that's a different situation.
Oh, I see.
No, I mean,
you can unfold the phone once, and then you just need to buy a whole new phone, and it's fine. We don't mind taking your money.
But that'll be one of the only things that the larger foldables benefit from. It's that surface area. You have that larger surface area. Yeah, you still have that display, but it has a bigger area here on the side to dissipate. And also the function of when you're holding it or when you're using it changes also the orientation so that you don't feel as much.
Open surprised when I had it open and I was doing my performance testing, where the open can almost hang, in a lot of my tests, can almost hang with an 8 Gen 3. But it does, the characteristics of that phone change dramatically when you close it. And then we have what we're discussing here is it feels like two different animals. And that is still a property of physics that I don't know we'll ever be able to solve. We can't solve bendable screens. So many people on my cranky editorial were like, until they're as durable as a slate phone. And you're like, that's impossible. That is physically not possible to make them the same durability.
It can never be the same. Yeah, no, I know.
Short story, incredibly long, and cranky Juan poking around notwithstanding. I hope everybody will go and catch TK's video on the Mix Flip while he shoots flies.
It was a pleasant experience. And I
you just got to help the dude out. He's covered in flies. It's just like, man, you got to...
one fly. And that right now, it's sitting on the X-Wing. So I have an X-Wing right on top of where my monitor is set up. I have one of those Lego X-Wings that I put together with Omar. So it's on the X-Wing. It's not moving. So I'm hoping we finish the stream, and because I can't swat it. I can't swat it in this office. I have to open the door, turn on the lights somewhere else, shut off the lights here, and hope for it to kind of go out that way.
It's nuts. Like, if I trip in my office, if I fall in the wrong direction, it's like, well, there goes thousands of dollars worth of equipment, I guess. It's pretty bad.
That was an expensive fly.
Right.
But yeah, no, either way, long story short, please let me know what you guys think of the video. It's been up for a couple of days, and I think I'm going to be hopefully working on some of the other stuff that I need to cover again. And there's going to be quite a bit of content coming out from now till I get to IFA, and then some stuff as well from IFA. So I'm excited, stressed, and hopefully I have enough time in the days, and they're basically going into the nights as it typically does. But yeah,
for sure. Good times.
But let's switch over to the Synology. I didn't even know you were working on the
Yeah.
Synology B. The
So
drive.
the folks at Synology reached out last week, and then they
Yeah,
were like, "Well, let's just send you a bunch of stuff." And I was like, "All right."
because I've
So
used their
one of the
routers
things
before. I haven't used it. I didn't even know they made.
I
Yeah.
I haven't handled Synology since I was at Newegg. At
Oh wow.
Newegg, I was in deep on all of their network attached storage solutions, and
Oh,
then
okay, okay.
I foolishly went with Western Digital for one of my first enclosures, and that was awful. It's
Yeah.
still like I need people to understand. Not only was my experience with a NOS solution terrible, I
Right.
ended up going through 3 boxes in total just so I didn't lose all of my data because their enclosures kept failing. My uncle
Mm-hmm.
got a 2 drive, a 2-bay Western Digital
Okay.
that couldn't transfer his files from his PC to the drives because it would overheat.
Wow.
So when I got his enclosure, he was like, "I'm not going to use this. I just want to get rid of it. You can have it." And I'm like, "Are you sure? There are two 10 terabyte drives in this enclosure. Do you Are you not going to use those drives?" And he was like, "I hate this thing. I'm just going to get rid of it." And I'm like, "Okay." And I took the drives out of the Western Digital enclosure, and that's when I got my QNAP. My
Yeah.
QNAP has gone for years of uninterrupted use in the worst little pocket of my bookshelf with no ventilation,
Oh no,
and occasionally you can hear the fan spin up.
I'm
People keep saying, "Well, your Western Digital drives probably failed because you didn't have adequate cooling or whatever." It's like, well, if that's the case, then QNAP has built phenomenally better enclosures than anything Western Digital could use. Short
yeah.
story, incredibly long. Synology finally reached out to me, and we're going to talk about some gear. But I wanted to start just a little more on the consumer side.
Yeah.
Just for my own channel, it's sometimes difficult jumping directly into like Panasonic or corporate grade or rugged grade or stuff like that. So the first thing they sent over was their little B drive, where this is now, I think this is about a year old.
Okay. Let me switch you
And,
over. There we go.
oh, thanks. So I think this is about a year old.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the functionality hasn't changed dramatically. Obviously, it's gotten some little software updates and there's been a firmware update. And it's still an interesting idea that we started this podcast off talking about a really complicated router. There are
Yeah.
ways to make a router less complicated, but then you lose functionality. You can make network attached storage style devices less complicated, but then you start to lose some features and some support.
Yeah.
So this is basically a little. So I've got a 2 terabyte drive here.
Okay.
It can work just like any other like portable mini hard drive thing,
Mini SSD.
right?
Yeah.
You can take an SSD, plug it into a USB cable, you can just drag and drop files over. But when you plug it into a PC and you install the little B drive app, or you have the little B drive app on your phone, you can use the network that you're on to start syncing files between multiple computers. So if I have all of the B drive apps like on my phone, my wife's phone, and my
Mm-hmm.
daughter's tablet, then whenever I plug this into a laptop, it reaches out to all of those devices, and all of those devices can choose, hey, let's back up. And then it dumps all of the content from the phones to the computer that this is plugged into, and the
Okay.
computer then offloads that to the storage
Acting
here.
essentially like your network attached storage, but more of a portable solution. So basically, in a much
Exactly.
smaller single drive type solutions, as opposed to having the
So
redundancy. But I like it. Yeah.
so interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's not revolutionary, and we've
No.
had other like portable like wireless hard drives. So there have definitely been products that
I,
can do
I
that
want to
on
say
its own.
I did a video for Western Digital actually for one of their drives
Yep.
that did that. It was a wireless
WD had
charger.
one.
Yeah, and it was a
Kingston had a wireless memory card reader. Yeah.
Yeah, you put the phone and it charges the phone, and as it hits the NFC tag, it kicks up the backup functionality, and it
Yep.
connects to the drive, backs up wirelessly, and then suddenly your phone is backed up and charged, kind of thing. But yeah, no, I remember. I think
For
I
sure.
may have I may have it here somewhere.
I
But
know.
yeah.
I in a bucket in my closet. I know where the bucket is. I still have like a wireless hard drive and a
Yeah.
wireless memory card reader.
That's good.
But B drive is going to be kind of interesting because when this came out, I think Synology shot a little aggressive on pricing. And over the last year, I don't think B drive has proven to be super popular for their portfolio of gadgets. So the price on B drive has actually fallen where
Hmm.
it's a software feature. And it's a software feature that you can kind of replicate a little bit just using like open source or portable apps. If you just
Hmm.
get an SSD and you install some software on it, you can kind of do some of the things that B drive can do. But when B drive is now within the same kind of ballpark price wise, a 2 terabyte drive here versus a 2 terabyte drive from Samsung or
Yeah.
from Kingston, then that I think helps the conversation. So for me, this is going to be a little bit of a product, not a product revisit in that I played with it originally, gave it a review, and now I'm coming back to it, but just a year later, there's something interesting to talk about just knowing that it's more price competitive.
Yeah.
So that's going to be part of the conversation there. And then they also sent over their B Station, which is a really simple single drive,
Yeah.
network attached, traditional. This is like Synology's bread and butter,
Yep.
but the consumery flavor of this. So again, it's a little less robust for all of the, like hardcore small business management, connectivity options, everything like that. But it's still network attached storage. It's like Synology, like every other one of these NAS manufacturers is trying to say like make your own cloud. Well, here you plug in a cable, you go to an app on your phone, and you should have your own cloud, and it hopefully will be as simple as that,
Yeah.
without having to go through the router setup that we went through on our portable routers.
Which
So
I'm about to go on. I gotta go through on tomorrow morning. But yeah, no, I'm with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's like you got to take the time. The way that we can streamline that, and maybe it's not as feature rich as like a proper, small business grade computer managing all of those drives. Something like this should be easily accessible.
Yeah.
And then people will kind of figure out, oh, that's what those other weird funky holes are on the back of my Wi-Fi's. And I can plug a weird funky square thing into this, and then my Wi-Fi's will use this instead, and I won't have to pay for a cloud. So this is a 4 terabyte drive.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't have a whole bunch of fancy redundancy. It's not a multi-bay solution. So you do treat it like another, like Seagate.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of those. It's a single drive, but it can connect to your router instead of a USB port. Great. So I think it's nice to have an option here from a company that is really well known for their business grade and their small business grade solutions for multi-bay devices. Here's something that should be simple, straightforward, and an average consumer can figure out and set up a little easier. So again, it's going to be a fun little combo. And then I'm talking to them about like from here, then going to the opposite end of the spectrum, like
the
like a 6 bay. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So we'll see where Synology goes after that. But it's been interesting kind of revisiting. I've really enjoyed using my QNAP. And even though my QNAP ran into a brick wall with Plex performance, it has actually been decently easy finding solutions that will play with the QNAP to still do the things that I want to do. Like I'm running a Plex server on a mini PC, so that Plex isn't running on my NAS. That's been working really well. So it's like it's still proven to be expandable even beyond what's literally inside the box. And that's, I think, something that Synology will do really well, like offering up those kinds of solutions, those media, entertainment, office, document, business grade solutions. And then from there, just how many drives can I get away with? Like how many bays will they send me?
Exactly. And what new cloud storage configuration Juan's trying to start running from his office. And we're all subscribe and start uploading our content to that cloud. But no, I'm with you. I think I'm a big fan of their solution. I think my experience with them is primarily has been with their router and repeaters. And that was my
Yeah.
only experience with them. And I still use their router. I don't need the repeater because I'm using the Google Nest
Hmm.
Pro mesh for my solution. So that worked better for me the way I have it at the house. But I think at the end of the day, it's nice to see the different solutions. And like you said, plugging it in automatically pulls the content from the other place. Because like the moment it becomes aware or alive, Skynet will start asking for that content back.
For
Sorry,
sure.
Synology will start asking for that content. Sorry, I had to bring it back to Skynet. I mean, come on,
Yay! It's
come on.
Skynet
It's gonna all
Day.
go poof. Let it go.
So just
Kind
just to wrap up, like the things that I thought were cool this week.
yeah,
Our podcast is sort of called the best of our week,
I know.
and we spend a lot of time complaining on this podcast. Have you played with any of the recent builds of Shotcut?
No.
Shotcut is
Okay.
an open source, free video editing app that I think originally, someone please correct me if I have this wrong. I believe it was Linux first, but
Okay.
I might have that wrong. But they've been making a Windows flavor for a while. And it just got another little decimal point upgrade. They've added like some better features for subtitles. Again, totally free. It is not as robust as like Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve, but it is a proper multi-track professional style video editing program that apparently, and I missed this, about a month ago announced that they had delivered an ARM native build.
Oh. Okay.
And not just ARM native
I was
for
actually about to say, like,
Snapdragon.
DaVinci 19 came out, and I was very happy with
So
that.
I'm getting to that too. So not just ARM, like, oh, we're only going to support X Elite.
Okay.
It is ARM native code that can run on any Windows on ARM PC.
8CX,
And
like the like our
my
local umbrella?
8CX Gen 3 is flying
Dude.
on the timeline with 2 tracks of 4K video and a soundtrack. It gets real chewy when you try and do like transitions and you use some of their rudimentary plugins. But in every way that DaVinci 19 is not supporting older Qualcomm ARM PCs,
Yeah.
Shotcut is a full-featured, robust, supported ARM native code, and it'll render 4K video. It'll render 4K video very slowly.
Baby.
So by comparison, like a project that would take about 45 seconds to render in DaVinci, I tried to recreate as close as I could, like frame for frame. Trying to do the same thing in Shotcut. So sorry, if I do this project on my X Elite, on my Windows laptop 7, it'll take about 40 seconds to render.
Okay.
If I do as close as I can copy that project on Shotcut, on my 8CX Gen 3, on my Robo and Kala, it'll take over 4 minutes to render.
Okay.
So
makes sense. I understand. It's not as robust. But the fact that it runs is the biggest part, and it actually supports.
But it works.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go through Linux. I didn't have to go through WSL. It's ARM native code running on Windows 11 for ARM series chips.
Okay.
And the timeline, the timeline still worked great. So when I'm scrubbing my footage, one of the issues I had, there was another Linux editor that I can't remember which one I was using. And actually that Linux editor rendered faster, but your timeline was a mess.
Okay.
So like you would click to drop your cursor and then you would wait. You would push the spacebar to play the video and it was doing like 3 frames per second and you couldn't see exactly how things were flowing. It was functional, but kind of not really. Shotcut is the opposite now. It'll play 4K video like butter. It's just, when you're done with that project, you're going to have to wait for a while to finish up that render. But totally free. Yeah. Totally free, Shotcut. And it looks like something pro, and you can really stack multiple layers. You can get in there and edit audio. They've got a very rudimentary but practical set of plugins so you can edit and color correct and manage transitions and wipes and stuff like that. It's phenomenal, and it's free. So DaVinci is exciting. DaVinci 19 is out. It's the full version. It's no longer in beta. I think it's running really well.
Stable.
It still has some stickiness with audio, but the audio performance has improved tremendously from where we were during the betas. But it's just now, yet again, even more evidence of how terrible Adobe is managing their products.
Yeah.
So it's like DaVinci is well ahead of the curve. They're supporting X Elite. Adobe Premiere now works in an emulated state on Windows on ARM. And now here's Shotcut, which for free, these developers have said, yeah, we flipped the switch. We've delivered ARM native code. So anyone who's out there who's still like, oh, I don't know, Windows on ARM, it's just so terrible and nothing ever works. And I can't even do things that work because it should just work. Well, you're a moron and you need to be mad at Adobe. Adobe is terrible and you should stop doing business with them because
what kills me is that Adobe was at the table with Qualcomm back in the old days, and every single time they sat down, every year, we're working on it, and in reality they weren't even trying to work on it. They got some support for Photoshop early on, and I think that was their biggest thing. They're like, okay, if we can get Photoshop there and nobody else cares. And then they stopped. And then now that DaVinci
and Premiere is even in worse shape. I mean, like, I kind of feel like Adobe is still kind of treading water and keeping up with Lightroom and with Photoshop.
I think,
but like,
those are their biggest drivers at this point. Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, you would think they would be putting more resources behind Premiere because you kind of go into Adobe as this all-encompassing suite. But it seems to be the one that's getting the least attention, the least polished, the least improvements, and DaVinci is just eating them for lunch right now. Anyone who's still forced to cut on Premiere, I feel bad for you, son.
Take the plunge.
You gotta move on.
And spend the few days that it takes to transition over from Premiere to DaVinci. And once you do switch over, you'll be like, why was I ever on
Why was
I?
I get it.
Yeah.
Your plugins are going to be different, and going to node-based can be kind of a brain cramp. Totally understand. It's going to suck. But it's not going to suck for that long. And then it's going to be so much better. And then it's going to be so much cheaper than continuing to do business.
I've gone from 17 to 18 to 19, and it cost me the exact same, not a penny more, not a penny, not even a $2 processing fee for giving you the new. No, not even that. It was literally I logged in, I was about to start editing the Mix Flip video, and my DaVinci was like, "Hey, 19."
Would you like to run an update?
I would
like to run an update.
October. I totally thought it was going to be like September, October. I wasn't even looking for it. And every once in a while, like I was on 18.6.6 for the longest time, and I had 19 installed on the X Elite, and I was like, okay, but the beta 4, beta 5, but it was just hard for me to rely on it. The timeline and editing on there was just taking too long. From like a time critical where I need to be in and out and within a couple of hours, it was hard. But I'm again, I want to rerun some of my tests on it and see how it runs. I'll say on the M1 Pro, on the M1 Max that I have, it still performs better than a 1-to-1. Like I think it's like but I feel like it's a little bit slower, a little bit. I could be wrong. I could be just a placebo thing. But the timeline, I think I still need to edit an actual project in the new DaVinci because I edited it in 18.6.6 because I didn't want to mess with that.
My workflow does seem to help. Okay. Where we talked about this before, because of the way that I like to handle audio as a separate entity before I layer audio into my projects, that seems to still be one of the sticky spots for Resolve on Windows on ARM. Yeah. But again, I started with DaVinci 15, then paid for DaVinci 16 Studio, and I have not spent another dime. Yeah. Since buying DaVinci 16, and that comes with 2 licenses, so I can always have it on 2 machines,
and that's how I
at the same time.
I have it installed on both desktop, laptop.
So again, I'm nudging people, like, even if you just think, oh, all I want to do is just trim some basic stuff, like, go get DaVinci 19 free, and you can do that. But now, especially for those of us, and for the few people who might even catch this at some point, I don't know. I don't think DaVinci is going to come to older Windows on ARM devices. I reached out to DaVinci directly, and I actually had a back and forth with one of their PR people, and then they just kind of went radio silent. And like instead of just giving me the answer in writing, I'm kind of taking it the non-answer as the answer, that I just don't think it's ever coming. But now I can pick up my Robo and Kala on an 8CX Gen 3, which, I don't know, we're talking maybe 11th Gen Core i5 in terms of performance. It's not a beefy tablet.
Yeah.
But now I have a full-fledged video editor that runs incredibly smooth. It just takes a while to render. And that's amazing. This thing is now, we're going on almost 3 years with this SoC in terms of like the core technology and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
no, absolutely.
It's an older chip. I mean, not just the chip itself, but like the entire technology surrounding this chip. It's a little long in the tooth there, and it keeps getting better. Like the functionality of this thing today is miles ahead of when it first came out, and I feel like that deserves a bit more attention.
No, I would be really interested to see if Robo and Kala decides to put out like an X Elite or an X Plus, a newer version of their tablet, maybe an updated 2024 edition. I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to start seeing other manufacturers jumping in.
Yeah, the other one we just caught, Cadas is going to be coming out with another one of those new like little modular PCs, and they're going with another Intel chipset, and like it's Cadas and it's Robo and Kala. They need to get on these new ARM chips. Like that, those are the perfect idea. Like if you've ever seen the Cadas Mind, it's this little box. It's even smaller than a mini PC, but you sort of build a computer around it. So if you want to have a monitor that kind of hinges out, if you want to have different add-on modules that have like different accessories, or the ability to run a discrete external GPU, stuff like that. And it's a really clever little modular concept. We've seen modular PCs in the past. But knowing that like the next flavor of it's about to come out, and that it's still going to be Intel, is like you're missing something that could be a real benefit for that concept. Use a lot less power, run a lot cooler. It's just we're so close. We're so close to this stuff really tipping over into something that I think will be a lot more exciting.
I'm happy. No, I'm glad. And kind of speaking of some of the things that I need to still also finish, I need to put together my A8 video, the Geekom A8 video with the Ryzen SoC.
God, you gotta jump on it. It's so good.
It is.
We had the exact same conversation last week. I love the A8.
It's so good. My only, it's timing and the whole last weekend. There was a game for Omar. It was just busy, and this holiday weekend, staying home a little bit will give me a little bit more time to focus on and get a lot of that content set up and start having those videos kind of come out, because I feel so bad. I've had the A8 for about a month now, so like it's not like I feel bad because I keep like having to just kind of explain. I'm sorry, it's been busy. So that's going to be literally one of my next videos. Between that and the Skylight for Nano Leaf, for me, that's going to be the next 2 videos. There's some other content that I'm working on that'll be hopefully closer to IFA, the content, so it's embargoed. Unfortunately, I can't talk about that. But that's kind of what's going to come out from my side. But what's your plan for the next few days, or I guess in the upcoming week before we talk again next week?
I put out a video today.
I think so.
So what's happening is I'm trying to stage a little bit more time in between when I publish in preview on Patreon, and then when I publish publicly on YouTube, and it gets me a little out of order in my brain.
Okay.
But today I finally got the video out on the Edifier, the Stax S5.
Yes,
which
I saw the preview part on that one. Yeah.
Planar magnetic, premium tier, audiophile grade Bluetooth headphones. They're delicious. And now I really want to do a showdown between those Edifier and the Audeze Maxwell. So it's a little bit more gamer headset versus a little bit more audiophile listening, but they overlap so much. It's like that could be a really fun fight, a really interesting fight. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to try and get out that Ace Magic.
Okay.
So the X1 with the dual display,
Yep.
that funky flip out hinge display. I'm going to try and get that one out because I think it's still in pre-order. Like I don't even think they're shipping those yet. Okay. So I'm going to try and get that out for Friday. And then I've got a dongle DAC. I've got there's a phone on my desk that I don't think anyone's going to be really interested in talking about. It's like
Titan?
It's a Poxel. Is that what it's called? Or a Plexel?
Okay.
Or no, wait a minute. It's from Google, the phone that Google makes. I don't think anyone is really into that. I looked up the name of the phone in Google Trends, and it was like an order of magnitude less interest than iPhone 16.
Maybe.
So I guess it's.
You should pick up the iPhone 16 then, or wait for the
iPhone 16. We should just buy the iPhone 16. There's no point in making videos unless we can talk about the iPhone 16.
SEO, or just put iPhone 16 in every single one of your titles, but just never talk about it. And see how many fanboys you can actually get in your video saying
what could go wrong.
Yeah, it's engagement.
I love it. I love it. Like Google does this BS where, according to their terms of service, we're not supposed to be doing things that purposely mislead the audience. Like that is actually, you can get channel strikes for things like that.
I know.
But then I uploaded my Ace Magic video, and I think it's a 4-second sped clip of my interview with Shannon, with Snubs. The auto thumbnail generator went, look, there's an attractive young woman with pink hair. Let's use that as your thumbnail, which would completely misrepresent what my video is about because she's not in the video, me talking about this laptop. So it's like Google will give us strikes if we do things like purposely mislead our audience, or you use repetitive thumbnails or thumbnails that misrepresent the video. That's technically against the terms of service. But then what does YouTube's own thumbnail generator do? Out of a 15-minute video, the main thumbnail that it thinks people are going to be interested in clicking on this video is a picture of Shannon. I'm so tired of Google's utter, complete, hypocritical crap. They are the worst at fairly enforcing their guidelines and fairly enforcing their rules, and they're the first to break their own rules and guidelines. It's such obnoxious crap. So anyway, I'll maybe have that video out tomorrow.
Okay, good. I'm gonna try to see if I can get the Skylight video out tomorrow, and then the GeekCom over the weekend. And then that kind of stages me pretty comfortably for the week that's coming up. That's a lot of stuff coming up, but I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also going to try to figure out how we're going to do our podcast next week. But I want to still circle back because I think by the time we talk, there'll be some good content that are already out that we can cover, and we'll see how we're going to circle back and get that going. But I will say this: if you guys want to get some more content, some more good conversations going on, obviously make sure to catch Juan on Monday with the SGGQA. He has a really good long running podcast, even longer than ours, and he covers a lot of the latest news and politics news. Tech related politics or anything kind of relating to tech at the beginning of the week. Catches us at the beginning of the week, kind of gets us running really well. And then we'll see how we're able to get our podcast next week with me traveling, as it just inevitably ends up happening that one of us is remote. We had a beautiful trip recently where we were both together, and just hopefully we'll do some more. I'm hoping for another trip with you and I, man. We got to figure out something. But thank you guys taking your time, spending your time with us on this beautiful Thursday evening, the last Thursday of this month, if I'm not mistaken. It's the 29th of August. And wish me luck. I will be tackling this router tomorrow morning, the RTAX57 Go, as Juan said in his video. Make sure you look for the Go, because if you take the Go out, it's a totally different router. It's not. It looks cool. It looks like a spaceship with antennas. This doesn't have antennas, but this one's more portable. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. So take care, everybody. Be safe. Stay safe. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys next week.